Madam President.
Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Madam President. I join my Democratic colleagues on the floor today to once again speak out against this president and his administration's outrageous abuses of executive power. And while unfortunately there is a myriad of presidential abuses to which I could be referring, today, this evening, I'm here to discuss two of his most recent and most egregious actions that not only run afoul of Congress's authority and our constitutional system of checks and balances, but also compromise our national security. It began with the president making a phony national emergency declaration to bypass Congress and steal money to build his border wall under the auspices of a quote-unquote crisis, one of the president's own making, in pursuit of advancing the most anti-immigrant agenda this country has seen in generations, all manufactured to secure federal funds to build his often-touted vanity wall on our southern border, a wall the American people were not supposed to pay for and that we, time and time again, have indicated we do not want. Now, you would think that this extreme overreach of executive authority alone would get our colleagues on the other side of the aisle riled up enough to defend the Constitution's system of checks and balances. But in declaring his national emergency, President Trump took his overreach one step further, ransacking critical federal funds, taxpayer dollars, that were appropriated by Congress to fund important military construction projects and national security priorities across the country. To do what with? To put towards building his wasteful border wall. So to be clear, instead of federal funds going towards military infrastructure priorities like building a new pier and maintenance facility at Naval Base Kitsap in my home state of Washington that will help guide and protect our Navy's vital nuclear submarines, those funds are now going to pay for Trump's border wall. Instead of our military using federal funds already authorized by Congress to increase access to child care for our service members and their families, those funds are now going to go to pay for Trump's wall. Madam President, while this behavior from our president is predictable, it is no less wrong, underhanded, and unacceptable. And I know I'm not the only one who thinks that way. Since the president's rash move to reprogram billions of dollars from our military construction budget towards his border wall, I have heard repeatedly from constituents who are upset by this president's brazen acts of recklessness and are wondering how the president of the United States can just step over Congress to do whatever he wants with our federal budget, especially when it is on the backs of our troops and their families. Madam President, I refuse to stand by and do nothing while this president hurts my state and so many others. Why? Because he cares more about his vanity project than our troops, our military community, or the American people. So that's why in the coming days, I plan to introduce new legislation that will not only recoup the military construction funds that were shamefully raided for Trump's border wall, but put in place new safeguards to make sure that no president today or in the future can so effortlessly bypass the will of Congress to loot the federal budget. We need to put a check on this president, plain and simple. And right now, we can do so by standing up for Congress and our constitutional authority to set the federal budget and pay our nation's bills. So I urge my colleagues to join Democrats in voting to rescind President Trump's bogus national emergency declaration and taking that first step to roll back this president's plunder and hold him accountable. Because as a co-equal branch of federal government, it's not just our job, it is our sworn duty, and one this body and our Republican colleagues cannot ignore. Thank you, Madam President, and I yield the floor.